Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome back to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. This is also going to be the last EVE Talk before the plex changes, because those should hit on May the 9th, which is next week. So I'm really curious to see how all of that is going to work out. We may actually take a quick look at the market as they're deployed to see exactly what happens there. Because at the moment, to my surprise, plex have still been going up. So let's go straight to the market. I think everyone is there for that, and I should take something to write. So we will start as always with the plex market, 45 seconds, like that, and you can see that the sellers have gone up to 1,277 million ISK, which is quite a lot for plex, and the buyers are up to 1,220 million. Now, to get it out of the way, here is the perimeter market. There's also the Morrissey market is apparently, which is only one jump away. They are down to 1,256 million. And perimeter, yeah, 1,256 million. When it comes to the buyers, from 1220, they go up to 1,234 million, and that's also in Morrissey. So no longer is perimeter the cheapest place to get your plex, but it's actually a trade hub, Planet 5 trade on in Morrissey rather than perimeter. So these two systems are now basically trying to compete with one another to get some player market activity. And as you can see here, we have to scroll down quite a bit until we get to Jita Station itself. With plex, they are decently successful. All these trades, of course, if they ask for a fee, for a broker's fee, even if it's much lower, then the NPCs will make for a very nice income for the owner of those citadels. But if we take a look here at plex prices, we're obviously above the previous peak here by now, and it's almost unstoppable, still going up towards the plex changes, which is to me a little bit surprising. As I've said, I was mostly focusing on what would happen with the Aurum. Aurum is going to get converted into plexes. At first, all balances above 1,000 Aurum will go straight into the new microplex, as I've personally been calling them, just to make the difference between this 30-day pilot's license and then the new plex that will come out, that will basically be 1/500 the current plex. So microplex, let's say. I think that that's going to be a lot of extra supply that does come to the market, which should put some pressure on the price. But seeing as plex continues to go up, it's obvious that the market expectation is quite different. And so I did a quick calculation, right? 1,275,000,000. Let's say that we're gonna take that price, 1,275 million, divided by 500, and you get 2,550,000 ISK for a single plex. And the theory here may be that this becomes affordable for anyone. Even a 1 week old player can get enough together to buy one of the new microplex, and thus maybe the expectation is that because of that, demand will actually increase manyfold, because even players that previously were not plexing their account, or were not even thinking of plexing their account, because 1.2 billion seems like a threshold that they'll never be able to play towards, now they might actually invest some of their ISK, just a couple million here, a couple million there, in those new plexes, in those new microplexes, and thus increasing demand substantially. Why would they do that? Well, I think that then it is more speculation on what CCP might do, which is to bring online services in-game, possibly out of game, well, mostly in-game, of course, for those microplex themselves that don't cost 500. The big advantage is that this is granular, so they can provide services for packages of maybe 10, 50 or 100 of the microplex, which would then become accessible even for alpha clones, for instance, thus increasing demand substantially. I think it's definitely possible. On the other hand, as I've said, I do think that supply is going to increase as well. I think if CCP can offer smaller packages, it's easier to also just invest 1, 2 or 5 euros or dollars into the game as well than to always go straight for a full plex. So it's going to be interesting. There are, I think, things to say for both sides of the equation. What the actual results will be, you know, that's going to be very interesting next week. But for now, we can see that the market expectation is actually for a lot of increased demand, a lot of increased interest in the new microplex. And at the moment, they're basically trading at a one-year high point of almost 1.3 billion. Personal plans, I'm going to sell a few more at this price range because it's much more expensive than any of the plex prices that I bought them at, that I have sitting in my inventory, but I'm going to keep a healthy stock as well, so that I have a nice big chunk of the new microplex, and I will see depending on what it does compared to, I would say 2.5 million, you know, that is correct, right? It feels so weird. I think you have an in-game calculator. Yep, there we go. Let's quickly do that. 1,275, and then we add a million. I'm not really sure. 1,275, 123, 123, and we divide that by 500, and that gives you 2,550,000 ISK for a microplex. So if anything, I think that's one number that I'm going to try to remember when the patch hits, because that would be equivalent to the current price of a full plex. And then yeah, we'll see where it swings from that price point. In fact, I'm gonna write that down. 2550 123. There we go. So that's plex. Unfortunately, for people that are looking to plex their accounts, very expensive ISK-wise at the moment. Oh, another explanation as well, which I think does hold water to a certain extent, is that we're constantly still seeing from the monthly numbers that that people are still ratting up a storm in nullsec, that there are huge ISK volumes coming into the game. There is one note to be made there, is that there is still going to be much more stuff out there than there is ISK in actual value. And so I do still feel that to some extent this is probably true, and a lot of people are probably investing that ISK into plex, but this probably also goes at the cost of some other stuff. So I don't think that it's basically, oh, they're ratting so much more, this is pure monetary inflation. I think that there is speculation on increased demand as well happening to push the price up in plex right there. I'm still really curious to see what people are going to do when they find themselves with all that extra plex from their orms, but we'll see which forces win out next week. Next up, multiple pilot trading certificates. Those of course are going up towards 1.3 billion as well. Exactly 1.3 billion for the sellers, 1.2 for the buyers. Very wide margin. I'm just not sure what's going to happen with these, so this could just be taken out next week if it gets converted into plex or something like that as well. But that is a very wide margin of 100 million on the good, almost not available on the market either. Next up, we have the pilot body resculpt. Big jump up here, that's quite interesting. So a massive sale in Aurum caused the price to crash to 200 million. And here we are back up to almost 400 million, 351 million for the sellers, 300 million for the buyers. Bit more of a big amount here. Yeah, in fact, someone came in, I think, put up a lot of them from 368 down to 351. So quite a bit of competition on the seller side. So a bit of a jump up on some volume purchases, but some people were ready with some extra body resculpts, putting them on the market, driving the price back down already as well. Again, we will have to wait and see what happens with this one after the plex changes hit. Next up, we have the skill extractor. Those are still going up, of course, in tandem with the plex prices, but interestingly enough, here 290, 290, we are basically at the same level as last time. 293 million for the sellers, 283 million for the buyers. I'll quickly take a look. This is one item that is probably also doing decently well in the player-owned trade hubs, because it's pretty easy to get a lot of them in the redeeming queue. 293 million in Station, 286.5 million again in Morrissey. So this is not as big a difference as what we saw with Plex, I think. Or maybe if you do it times 5, it's decent. But yeah, there is a decent amount of skill extractor trade happening as well in the perimeter station and the Morrissey station now, again competing for that business. So skill extractors also going towards a 1-year high. Skill injectors next, selling for, well, if we disregard one sell order, 702 million. That is definitely up there. And here again, you can see a pretty strong demand, I think. Maybe not just for skill points, but in my opinion as well, for a store of value, a protection against inflation. We know that Plex for 1.2 billion, that is going to be gone. We're talking about the microplex from next week. I think one of the better items to go for will be skill injectors after the patch. So I will personally be looking for a bit of a fallback. Maybe if during the summer activity decreases enough, that demand for skill points decreases enough, and that we see a serious pullback in the price of skill injectors, I think I would actually personally make a decent move on that and try to start an investment in skill injectors for the future as my hedge against inflation. And I think I'm not alone, because we're clearly at a sustained place right here. So we're sustaining a price of almost 700 million ISK, and oh, we actually jumped up, right? So here we're actually trading at, let's see here, show me that number. Goddamn, the 1-year chart sometimes has some trouble, but currently trading at 690, last few days 680. And we're going up to 702 million for skill injectors. So I think that that's a very good price for the skill farms at the moment. But I think that it is understandable. If I would put my ISK in anything, knowing that plexes are changing, it would personally be in skill injectors, trying to find that protection against monetary inflation, which is a fact. So I don't want to... you know, I don't think that it's just inflation and the ratting that is causing the increase in price in Plex, but that it's part of the equation is absolutely true. So next up, we've got some minerals. As I've said, next week will probably be pretty damn interesting, and that's going to be at 12.25. There we go. Let's start with titanium. That pulled back a little bit, so we went towards 5 ISK, but we did not manage to maintain that. We're currently selling titanium for 4.8 ISK, so it's still pretty decent, but you can see that supply comes in at any opportunity to sell titanium for a better price than average. 2 billion, 5 orders here, another 2 billion here, another 1.5 billion here, pushing the price back down. On the buyer side, 2 billion, which is the exact same number as this, so this is probably the same person trying to buy at 446. Looks like we have a decent margin if we hit 5 ISK here between sellers and buyers, but this is definitely a little bit of flooding that is going to put some pressure on the titanium market here. We won't go above 5 ISK anytime soon with these kinds of volumes coming in, but slowly we're finding this new normal price, which is unfortunately a little bit below 5 ISK. Not a great price, at least it's not 3 point something, which we had late February. Next up, pyrite. That's been going pretty much flat in the last few weeks and even almost in the last few months. Slowly edging down though, that's a little bit worrying. I guess that people still have pretty big stocks of pyrite out there. 557 for the sellers, 547 for the buyers, and again here 178 million, 80 million, 160 million. It's a bit more supply than demand. You have to go down to 1 billion units at 512 in order to find a decently big buy order. So pyrite still under pressure a little bit, but basically still trading at the same range for an entire month, which is maybe not so bad. Hopefully we can work through the pyrite stocks and we'll actually start to see some movement there. But for now, again, with all focus on plex and on that sort of stuff, I actually think that that minerals are set to stay in their current ranges. Next up, we've got Mexalon. We can clearly see that after a bit of a peak up to 82 ISK we went down a little bit, but still at a very good respectable price, around 75 ISK, and this is basically the range that we're trading at, starting to move sideways. 77.65 for the sellers, 72.20 for the buyers. 75 is right in between those two. Here you have 13 million, 57 million, bar 60 million, 30 million, 10 million. So here you have a much more balanced situation, which is the reason why you have both sometimes people actually go for the sellers and they need big stocks of Mexelon, so they buy them straight for the sellers, but sometimes people come with their mind Mexelon, they're a bit impatient and they sell straight to the buyer. So we get an average price between those two. On one day it's mostly the sellers that win out, on another one it's mostly the buyers that win out, but on average we're staying in between that price range, which means stable prices for now for Mexelon at around 75 ISK, which is actually a really good price. I say it every week, but if you do mine in HiSec, try to prioritize sources of Mexelon. It's going to increase your ISK per hour by a decent margin. And next up we've got Isogen, doing the exact opposite of Pyrite, interestingly enough. So decently sideways, but with a slight edge towards higher prices, towards maybe 55 ISK or something like that. 52 for the sellers, 50.02 for the buyers, so just a 2 ISK margin. And here the better news is that at least you go down just a couple buy orders. It is below 50, but here you find 60 million, 100 million, and on the sellers you have 34, 23, 34 and 40. So a bit more of a balanced picture, which means that Isogen is slowly creeping up, but mostly a sideways movement at the moment. And then finally we've got Noxium as well, after a nice comeback with a very low bottom. It has to be said, less than 300 ISK for Noxium was very, very low. We had a nice comeback, and I think we will start to trade sideways here as well at the current range. 385 for the sellers, 364 for the buyers, 15 million units being bought here, 2 million here. So yeah, in the orders of a couple million, and one big buy order supporting the price. And here we have 2 million, 2 million, 5 million, 2 million. So again, maybe a slight edge to demand supply, I have to say, but that is normal after we come off of this peak here. So people are still probably perceiving this as a very good price, but I think we'll start moving sideways here as well for now. That's my personal expectation, of course. As always, take that with a grain of salt. Next up for Nullsec we have Zydrine, which again for almost 2 months now has been moving sideways around 1000 ISK, sometimes a bit above that, sometimes below that, but here we see again the same picture. Sellers 1030 ISK, 6 million, 2 million, couple million, buyers 945 ISK, much smaller in volumes as well. And in general we're basically moving around this current price range, mostly seeing the sellers win out, so we're very close to 1000 ISK on the average prices all the time, exactly. So it's mostly of course the sellers that do win out, which means that this the same analysis that you can make for the HiSec minerals, which is that when you see much bigger volumes on the seller side than on the buyer side, so you get oversupply and you can expect lower prices, it doesn't really work for the Nullsec minerals, because it tends to be the case that the sellers dictate the price, because people just have the patience when it comes to Zydrine, when it comes to make a site, to put up a sell order, to have the competition there, but to try and get as much as possible out of the mineral. And so the buy orders, the volumes here are less important, in the sense that they get filled just much less. It's just a natural process of these having to be mostly imported into Cheetah. And then here we've got mega sites, which after having to give a decent amount of ground from 1600 to around 1350, 1300, again is starting to move sideways here in the month of May, and I think we'll continue to do that. Let's hope that this is an anomalous data point. Currently selling for 1320, and the buyers are at 1000 ISK. They're drying up basically, which is going to maybe put some pressure on it, but you need a more extreme picture like this one, where you just don't have competition anymore in the buyer side of things to start putting the pressure on mega side. So it is possible in this case, while you know they can usually still dictate the price on the seller side of things, and they are from 1330 as the average price, you do see that let's see here, competition comes in 13, yeah, right there, 1330, and then below that we're still in the last 24 hours going to 1320 and now 1318 as the latest sell order because of a lack of demand. But you need it's not just the volumes, it's just you can see that there is no demand at these prices anymore. Nobody's putting up new buy orders, so the sellers are forced to compete with each other more quickly. Megasite unfortunately is apparently in an oversupplied situation and might actually go down in price in the upcoming days. And finally we have Morphite, which moves decently flat. We had a slight sell opportunity towards 10k for just about a week, but now we're back down to 9,500 ISK for the sellers, 9,253 for the buyers. We've seen lower, so if you can pick up Morphite for less than 9,000 ISK, I think it's okay to do so. But then we need to wait a little bit for a better sell opportunity. You know, something like this, 11,000, 12,000 ISK would be great to see. I definitely have some Morphite lying around that I bought for less than 9,000 ISK. But at this range, at the current price, I would not move in just yet. And that's it for the minerals. Pretty interesting so far, I would say, although most of them, as I've said, I do expect them to start moving sideways. Seeing that complete lack of demand in Megasite though is a little bit unexpected. Next up we've got PI 2115. Good, we can do that. And those were doing really well in the last few weeks, and we can see here that construction blocks is still building on that, slowly edging up. 15,000 ISK, 14,900 for the sellers, 13,700 for the buyers. Of course, when you do play with 1 year highs, you tend to sometimes be under pressure a little bit from new supply, but the volumes remain quite strong. And yeah, to my surprise, construction blocks still staying well above average. I would dare to put this average at maybe 12,000 ISK or something like that. So really still very strong PI market at the moment for people selling. But first crack showing up here. Here is consumer electronics after a double spike to a 1 year high of 16,500 ISK pretty much, or 16,000 ISK. Here we do have a pretty sharp drop off towards 13,500. Sellers still at 15,250, buyers are at 13,500. So I guess someone did decide to fill up a few of the buy orders here. And fresh supply, well, full front page in 2 days, 36,000 units here, 30,000 units there. But the buyers are still willing to buy like 100,000 units as well all of a sudden. So it's a first sign that there is a bit of pressure in the consumer electronics market, but the sellers are still at more than 15,000 ISK, which is well above average. Coolants next, flattening out, I would say at an expected range, right? 12,500 is average. So 12,400 for the sellers, 11,550, 570,000. No, goddamn, 11,570 ISK for the buyers. Decently wide margin, but I would say that this is an okay and average price. So if you still want to sell right away, I don't think you're making a big mistake. I would not be looking to buy just yet, especially looking at where we come from a year ago. Below 10,000 ISK would be a really good price for trying a purchase. But right now, coolants fell back to a more average price. Enriched uranium though, still holding very strong at around 17,000 ISK, so that is definitely pretty good. 17,153 for the sellers, 16,500 for the buyers. I would not blame you for being impatient with volumes coming in at 54,000, 111,000, 40,000. That's going to put some pressure on that price, which is normal. If you look at the chart, we can't stay up there forever, but 16,500 straight to the buyer side of things is definitely not a bad price either. Mechanical parts next, tried to come back last week up towards 14,400 ISK, but it seems a bit more unstoppable, 11,700. But we could actually for mechanical parts look at an average price of maybe 10,000 ISK or something like that, to be honest. So this is still not the end of the world. Sellers 12,600, buyers 11,800, maybe a little bit above average, definitely not the best price anymore, but still okay. And yet another crack though in the in the PI market there, another one that is substantially contracting in price after reaching a 1-year high, of course. Oxygen next, still languishing on here at 400 ISK. This is of course processed material, so this is a little bit different, but another sign that we may be going down in price a bit. 425 or 433 for the first respectable sell order, 400 ISK for the buyers, trying to push this down below 400 ISK here for oxygen, so under pressure. Robotics next has to give ground as well after slowly going down from 120,000 to 110,000 ISK. Now it seems to be accelerating a little bit, and it is because sellers are coming in and trying to compete with each other now. Here we can see 108,000 to 104,000 in just a few sell orders in 24 hours. This is of course going to start to put some pressure. Interestingly enough, the buyers are still at 103,000 ISK, so I think we will slow down at around 100,000. But that is still above average, but not by that much anymore. So robotics also again not at the 1-year high anymore, starting to decline in price. Rocket fuel next, that one does go back up. This one is a little bit weird of course because of the median daily price being all over the place, but back at 15,000 ISK, 14,750 for the sellers, 13,400 for the buyers. I would say that considering the entire 1-year chart, that this is still a very good price for rocket fuel. Next up we have self-harmonizing power cores, second jump up here. This is a little bit surprising to me, but it's clearly happening to up to 2.4 million at the tail end, though we are slowly going back down. So 2.36 million pretty much for the sellers. You could say 2.4 million, it's not even in such massive volumes. And the buyers 2.2 million as well. So maybe some serious preparations are starting as well, because you can see here nice volume spike, bigger volumes on this increase in price as well. So I am seeing more demand, which I think can be due to preparations for the new structures, although it is very early, and I think maybe some good buy opportunities towards, let's say, 2 million or a bit below that for self-harmonizing power cores may still form in the summer. It is understandable that people are trying to pick up their PI materials needed or expected to be needed for the refineries as well at this point. Maybe another thing to note is of course that we're getting more and more concrete in the plans to phase out the Nullsec outposts, and these will be replaced by a special version of citadels, I think. Large citadels, basically faction large citadels, and these will have special rigs as well to try and get people to keep them where they are, but they will be unanchorable. You'll be able to put them in high-sec and have some really strong and good faction citadels there. Won't be creatable, but those will then probably need to be replaced if the plan is to try and bring them to safety. For instance, for Providence, this could be quite understandable. They'll have a huge amount of faction citadels come that patch day. If they can manage to hold on to their outposts, of course. We might actually see a war in Providence because of all of that. But I would say that, yeah, a lot of that will then inevitably have to be replaced. And I think maybe some alliances are preparing for that inevitable burning that is bound to happen when it comes to the outposts becoming basically destroyable citadels. So this is maybe part of that preparation already happening. We are probably talking about a lot of PI materials, a lot of structures that will need to be built for the replacements. Superconductors next, trading I would say around average here after doing really well in December and in June here. Nothing too special, selling for 13,300, I think definitely a bit above average. Buyers are at 12,600, probably around average. It's also only a couple of buy orders here, so we could go back down pretty quickly. Test cultures next, still basically moving sideways at the current trade range, 9,500 for the sellers, 7,000 994, so a bit less than 8,000 for the buyers, but we'll have to wait for a bit of volatility to come back here. I have some stocks that I bought trying to pick them up at less than 8,000 ISK. I don't think it's a major mistake, but who knows, maybe a better buy opportunity comes in as well. I didn't go in with billions of ISK, so I can still try and purchase that if it would happen, but I do fully expect that closer to the structures, if I look at these patterns here, that we'll see another big run up in test charts. So I think buying some of that makes sense. And finally, wetware mainframes, contrary to the power cores, still slowly going down, so that's interesting. 2.35 million for the sellers, 2.2 million for the buyers. If you would be buying anything for PI, in my opinion, it would be wetware mainframes, because when I was preparing for my structures, these have always been the real bottleneck, and they've had very big jumps up, as you can see here, up to 4.5 million when structures hit, and you can also see some massive volumes and purchasing right there. So I would not blame you for starting a bit of a purchase program on the wetware mainframes. And that's it for PI. We are now moving on to Tech One chips at 30.45. There we go. And let's take a quick look at these here. Battleships Abaddon went up in price a little bit. 176 million for the sellers. A bit of demand coming back here. 153 million for the buyers, so a bit of a jump up in price. Unfortunately, still well below average for compared to before the Ascension expansion. Caracal next, after the jump up in price in something like the Caracal, it's a cruiser, very easy to make, lots of fully researched PPOs out there. You do have to give ground, so we went above 10 million, currently selling for 9.6 million, buyers are at 9.1 million. So again, if I think from time to time when you see these dips and these moves up, and here another one, there will be purchasings happening for alliances, but because the Tech One market is doing so badly, we're probably talking pretty low volume purchases of this. Let's say that we jump down back down to an average price of 9.4 million. Yeah, we would basically need to see these sellers go down between 9.2 and 9.4, let's say, and then they pick everything up at that price, or maybe everything below 9.6 million, or in this case possibly 10 million. We're talking a few hundred of them, but we're not talking the absolutely massive volumes that are going to completely break out of the normal trade. Right here you do have all of a sudden 300 to but 200 to 50 is actually normal on a day's trade. It just doesn't have the volumes to create those massive volume spikes just yet, which is unfortunate, because I do think that there is decent amount of people that are waiting for these price decreases to happen to purchase for their alliances, yeah, they're also of course not able to buy all the volumes that they would like. We get some of these jumps up in price from time to time, at least in the Caracal, which is of course a very popular doctrine ship in nullsec. When we're talking about the Cofter here, went up to 29 million. Not bad at all, even compared to pre-ascension prices, almost getting there, but unfortunately we're back down to 24 million. Sellers are at 24.8 million, buyers are at 22.5 million. Here we do see a bit more supply, but you're not going to build a nullsec Cofter fleet. And the buyers, let's take a look at that. 141. Last 24 hours, just a couple of buy orders, so there is just not that much demand in general, followed by lower volumes, followed by what I would say is this slow repeating pattern over several months of nullsec alliances trying to pick up cheap Caracals, but just maybe managing 400 at a time or something like that, when they might be interested in purchasing even more of them. Still, we all know that bringing even more Caracals to the market would just crash the price even lower, and so nobody wants that either. The current balance is basically on a very slow Tech One market that doesn't see that much demand. Here is the Hurricane also going back down in price here towards less than 50 million, 46.5 million for the sellers, 42.8 for the buyers. Again, much more supply than demand, but still 10, 15, 21, 29, nothing in the hundreds coming in. And the buyers, yeah, you can see the lack of demand right there. These are sometimes probably being purchased by Nosec Alliances as well, but apparently not as often as with the Caracal. They're waiting for a price below 45 million, which we got right here. Then you do have some volume spikes, increase in price, but it goes back down. Here 42 million again, they're going up, but after that not so much anymore. So yeah, it's quite an interesting situation for the Tech 1 market. It's a bit unfortunate for people that are looking to get into the production of this type of stuff, because at the moment I just don't think there's that much money in it, because you cannot make massive volumes of ships and expect to sell all of those at a good price. You're just going to help keep the prices low. Here is the Maelstrom again. Yes, from time to time you do get this jump up, but here we are talking about 15 to 20 of them maybe being sold in a day, so that's not where you're gonna make that much money. 166 million for the sellers, 153 for the buyers. Again, the lack of demand is pretty obvious. Next up we have the Megatron, also went up last week, but back under pressure already as well. So 161 million, 147, a bit more demand in the Megatron to be spotted, but still unfortunately it's probably not going to be enough. And here is the Prophecy. This was a nice spike up, but probably on the volume spike, 83 of them to bring that price from 45 to 53 million. That's not even, I don't think, a full fleet. So after that we need a little bit of time. It is a battle cruiser. It takes a bit more time, I think, for the market to recover from that. Bring the price back down to 49.5 for the sellers and 45.7 for the buyers. But if you're looking at the available Prophecies below 50 million, we're talking maybe 40, 45 of them, which again is not that big of a purchase. So I would understand that an alliance looking to buy a Prophecy fleet wants to see this crash down even further, see maybe 100 Prophecies extra below this towards 47, 45 million. Then they'll just buy all of those back up to 50 million, but it has to be worth their while as well in volumes, which is not going to happen when you have this sort of demand on the Tech 1 market for ships. Scorpion next also went up last week, but again, you know, an opportunity like that is spotted immediately by the manufacturers, and then you get this unfortunate result that in a matter of a week we go from 168, 158, 151, 149, 148, 147 for the sellers and 136 for the buyers. Lack of demand again showing up right here in the Scorpion market. And then the Vexor here doing a sideways movement a little bit, much less variation. 10.2 million for the sellers and 9.5 million for the buyers. So last week it was looking like there might be a bit of a change of demand in the battleship market, but unfortunately I would say that it is looking like the industrialists spotted this increase in price and responded with more supply right off the bat, and bring the price back down to where it was before the little jump up last week. And it's almost inevitable, I think, that there is much more production potential out there in the game that is just not doing it because it's not worth it. And so when they spot an opportunity, they have a lot of stuff ready to bring straight to the market. There may be stocks building up as well that is going to keep this from really taking off in the Tech 1 market. We would need to see maybe a major Tech 3 nerf so that some of these do come back into the actual Nosec meta, but we also know that Nosec has become much more independent when it comes to resources and the production of their own ships. They're also focusing much more on their faction battleships at the moment as their doctrine, so that would maybe need to be hit as well before we see sustained increased demand for Tech 1 ships, which would mean better prices and possibly better margins for the manufacturers there. But right now that just doesn't seem to be happening. Any increase in price gets spotted and then flooded right away with fresh production. Next up, the Tech 2 markets at 39.10, let's say 39.10. Okay, Here we do like to look for some trade opportunities, and for the Aries you saw that maybe 10 days ago or so, or a good week ago, we went as low as 20.75 million on the chart. So purchasing Aries for less than 20 million was definitely a possibility, and then a couple of weeks ago we went up to 24 million, so that was a slight possible trade. Unfortunately we've been flooded already, but yeah, I think right here maybe 24.7 0.8, it was possible to sell below that. And if you manage to buy some for like 19.5 million, that's a bit of risk to be made, but fresh supply in the last few days did cause the price to crash back down substantially all of a sudden. So slight opportunity in the Aries market if you manage to purchase below 20 million. Here is the claw though, picking up. That's very nice. You could have easily, I think, picked up claws for less than 20 million. They are currently selling for 25 million. Not bad, 25% right there. Fresh supply is already coming in, so we may have jumped up to 20. Let's take a look here. 85, 86, yeah, 25 million. Not exactly sure how high we could have gone, or if this is still in the process of going up with big claw purchases. But here we go. Just a couple of weeks ago you could have bought claws, and I think I told you guys to look at them during these two down phases for less than 20 million, and now 25 million for the sellers. Here is the crow next. Unfortunately a little bit too stable for my taste, definitely not liking that the chart is between the highs and the lows. So crows are selling for 24.4 million and buyers are 22.6 million. I don't think I want to make a move either way here, but yeah, two slight sell opportunities in the other interceptors. Here is the Aries next. That unfortunately was like a slow opportunity. You could have bought these for 37.5 million, currently selling for 53.7 million, but this is not a situation that we see all that often. At the moment we're selling at a good price, so if you have some of these Aries still lying around, you can take your profits. Flycatcher next, knew a little bit of a boost on the redesign here, and after that went as low as 59 up to 67. I just don't think you're gonna make money in that. We need to get back to these levels, close to 50 million for the buyers, and we're not there just yet. So be patient on the Flycatcher. The Heretic though, as you can see here, in April went up to 60 million. In February you had an opportunity to buy them at 45 million. That is not bad, and we're working our way back down. Where are the buyers at? 47.5, still a bit too high, but you only need to go like 14 more heretics to the buyers, and you can see that 103 right here on the seller side is probably going to help with that, to push the price back down to purchasing towards 45 million, which historically has been a really good price to jump in on the Heretic. So possibly a buy opportunity is starting to form in the Heretic here. Next up we have the Hound. A little bit of volatility, not exactly enough. 27 million is respectable, back down to 20 million, and the buyers are at 19 million. You could try a couple of Hounds below 20 million and wait for another sell opportunity at 27 or up to 30 million if you're lucky with the timing. So it is possible. The Hound looks decently interesting if you want to play some ISK anywhere in the Tech 2 market. For this week that would probably look like a possibility. Here is the Malediction next. Unfortunately, I don't think that I like these spikes 21 to 27. That's not bad, but we can see that it is decreasing. So I would need to have a very convincing buy opportunity, which I personally would put towards 20 million on the buyer side of things before I make a move on the Malediction, because the pattern is clear here. Volatility is decreasing on this ship. Next up here we've got the Manticore. So again here we do like to see 23 million as an average price for an opportunity to buy, but here these jumps up are not bad. So Manticore is currently selling for 26 million, buyers are 24.3 million. It's not where we want to be, but if this has a little bit of momentum and we can go back down, and maybe in a few weeks we can purchase some Manticores. Nemesis, that's starting to look interesting. 20.4 million on the charts. It's still 20 million though, that's unfortunate. So we again would need to get rid of these 25 or 27 buy orders at 20 million. With this kind of supply I think it is possible, but after that of course if you can pick Nemesis up at 18 or 19 million. That is definitely pretty good. Right now, again, I would hold off, to be honest. Here's the Purifier. That is not bad. Currently a sell opportunity at 26.5 million. Again, purchasing 20 million, something like that, is definitely possible. 26.5 for the sellers, 23.6 for the buyers. Of course, you're not gonna pick up cheap purifiers, but here is a sell opportunity. Unfortunately, you did have to buy like in mid-February in order to actually make some decent ISK on that. And finally, we have the Saber. This again is not what we want to see, decreasing highs and then these lows staying above what we would like to see, which is maybe 47.5 million. So the buyers are at 49.7, that's too high. 53.4, you can maybe make some money, but just look at the supply that you have to compete with. So nope, don't like where the Saber is either. Yep, Ares Claw, you can maybe make a little bit of ISK on your purchases there. I might try to sell my claws actually. And then the Hound would be my one pick if you do want to invest in some ISK. Try to pick up some Hounds at 19.5 million. As we saw here, price above 25 million are actually possible. So Tech 2 market, yeah, some signs of decreasing volatility. Let's hope for a big Nasdaq war. Next up, Tech 3 market, 45.35. Okay. And as always, we'll start here with the destroyers. Let's take a look at these charts. Ooh, Confessor, not bad. Look at that, increasing 35.2 million for the sellers, 33 million for the buyers. So I hope that you have some stocks that you purchased at 27, 28 or 29 million. So here is a slight sell opportunity for you, 35 million, not bad. Of course, they're putting massive amounts back right away, but it is a slight sell opportunity. And finally, the first few signs that this market is becoming a bit more normal, driven by market forces rather than this huge oversupply. Next up here, we've got the Hecate. Let's take a look at that. You know, it's moving sideways, currently selling for 38 million. Again, you could have picked up Hecate's at 29 million, so it's not that bad. Right now supply is starting to win out though, so we'll see how low we can go, but definitely trading a bit higher with some volatility to be seen. The Jackdaw next here, let's take a look at that. Trying to go up, 35 million for the sellers. Again, decently large supply, but at least, you know, last 24 hours only 17 coming in, so you have a slight opportunity again if you purchase these really cheap Jackdaws to try and sell them now for 35 million. And then finally we actually have this Vapel to check out as well, went up to 33 million, so that is actually the smallest increase in price. We may still have to wait a little bit for something to happen in this Vapel market to push this one up, but yeah, some signs that at least the tactical destroyer market is coming back a little bit. And here a sell opportunity in the Confessor market if you want in on that, and if you actually did purchase some of these really cheap Confessors down here like myself. Next up, the cruisers. That should be bad news if you saw the ticker below with the Tengu going down another 4 million. So here is the Legion, obviously 1 year low, a slow burn down towards who knows how low will go. 122 million for the sellers, 116 million for the buyers. Very, very cheap. Next up here we've got the Loki. You know, try to come back a little bit, but again you can see that it is still under pressure. 115 million for the sellers with 120, 119 here, 13. Probably not going anywhere. 105 million for the buyers, very cheap historically speaking. Proteus next, also 1 year low and still going lower, 122 million for the sellers. So they're still trying to sell. Get rid of my Proteus, please, please market, someone take it at 122 million. I would almost say that you could risk it if you're willing to take that big gamble on CCP actually doing something really great, really interesting with the Tech 3 rebalance that will maybe create a niche for it or something like that. But again, I can't really see it because most comments have always gone towards they don't like how the Tech 3 cruisers are taking up roles that are meant for other ships. And so I don't think, can we make this in a very unique ship? I mean, I hope that CCP can do it, but I do still feel that the path is going to be towards a nerf. And finally here the Tengu, as we can see here, dropping off even at this low point, 1 year low point at 130 million, and we're still dropping off a cliff. This is just crazy. Less than 120 million for Tengus, 112 for the buyers. I mean, this is really cheap. I think I will buy at least one of each so that I can fly them. After the change, you should be able to fly them without having losses to your SP anymore. I think that they're going to change that. Maybe not. We'll have to see, of course, on actual information. I think I'll buy one of each at least, just to have it, just to be able to fly it, because this is just really, really cheap. But to risk massive investments in these ships, that's not for me. Maybe a couple extra, you know, if I could pick up some Tengus like 115 or something like that, maybe I'll look into that. But for now, yeah, seriously, under pressure, 1 year lows on all of the cruisers pretty much, and no sign of that stopping. So if you're looking for those cheap Tech 3 ships, then this is definitely a time to buy. But as I've said, this remains a massive gamble when you know that a rebalance is looming, and that in my opinion it's not looking like good news for these cruisers. And then finally, for the extra product, we're going to take 50-45. Okay, I'm going to look at the ice products. So I wanted to do the isotopes. I decided why not just add in all ice products. Let's go over these very quickly. Here is heavy water. So we can see that heavy water went up substantially, up to 750 in March, something that we completely missed, and is now back down to 268. So buyers are at 252, sellers are at 260, coming in with massive supplies. It is, well, here 2.6 million less than 24 hours ago, so I think that this will remain under pressure, but yeah, this is one spike over a year, so this is always very difficult to gamble on, but it does show that there are huge opportunities here, right? 125 to purchase, and then let's say above 600 to sell is definitely not a bad investment to make. So you can always risk gamble this, but it's not that easy to actually time a market like that. You need a lot of patience in order to actually make money on something like that. And as I've said, if you're looking to actively trade and you want some of those tips, you know, sometimes I get the question, well, you know, can you give me an investment tip or something like that? You know, heavy water right here, July, August, that's just absolutely good, but it probably looked completely bonkers as well at that time. And these are the types of gambles that you would need to make to get 5 times the profit, right? From 110 to more than 600, very easy. 6 times the price actually. And this though is a really big gamble that takes research in order to actually spot the opportunity, know that what would need to happen in order to create this increase in price, and then a massive amount of time and work to keep an eye on this market, at least weekly, preferably daily. Take a look at your investments and to then try to see that, oh yeah, it is happening, why is this volatility coming, understand that it will go even higher, and then here in March pull the trigger at the right time. This is very work intense. This is not something that you can just go down in a casino, put down a chips and be lucky. It really doesn't work like that, and I don't put that much time in the market either. I do EVE Talk every week to get a vibe of the economy, of the health of the game, and maybe spot some easy investments, but yeah, stuff like this I often miss because I don't put the time in. And if you do want to get in on that trading ISK, which is huge, right? 100 ISK to 600 ISK, that's the kind of trade that you want to make, that everyone dreams of, but understand that that takes some serious dedication, some serious discipline to actively put time in the market and to become a real trader in EVE Online. It can be worth it, as you can see right here. Helium isotopes next, also really jump up here in February, so that was not bad. 560 up to 717, so not as good as heavy water, but definitely up there for a really good trade. Here a 1 year low could have been spotted if again I would have taken the time. This is probably something that I would have tried to purchase if I had spotted it. Hydrogen isotopes next. So that was a big spike up to 800 in September. Currently trading pretty low at 612 for hydrogen isotopes. Not a 1 year low though. We could go below 600. Where are the buyers at? 555. I would almost dare to put an investment in hydrogen isotopes here at this point. This does look interesting with 555 on the buyer side of things. I think I would put up a hydrogen isotopes buy order. Next up, liquid ozone here. This I think is really interesting. Look where we come from, 300 now all the way down to around 100 ISK, sellers 110, buyers 103. But here is what I would like for you guys to understand and see this. There is a possibility, it remains a gamble, I fully understand that this chart right here is right here on the heavy water chart, and so that is up to you to decide whether or not you want to take this gamble. 4 months straight of really low prices, will this come back? Well, something needs to happen, don't ask me what, for this to make a massive comeback, but this does look eerily familiar, right, to this tailing off right here. So this again, it's up to you to decide what you want to do with your ISK. I don't actually want to give advice because I can be wrong here as well. Liquid ozone could go even lower in price, but this again would be a possible gamble for you to take. But one thing with these ice products, notice that you tend to have maybe one high point a year all of a sudden. So very difficult to actually time this kind of investment. Nitrogen isotopes, here again, low bottom in January and then sell opportunity not that long ago, March, April, currently on its way back down. So here we could have bought for 622 and sold for almost 900 ISK, not bad either. Oxygen isotopes currently at a 1 year high pretty much, so selling for 790, 785 ISK, buyers at 752. So oxygen isotopes definitely very high at the moment. And then finally we have the strontium. Let's take a look at that. Here starts the year at 5,000, goes up to 9,000, currently on its way back down. Where are the buyers at? 6,200, probably a little bit too early to pull the trigger, but these are the ice products. Very interesting, very diverse market, but as I've said, you need this long horizon if you want to actively trade in that, in my opinion. Here oxygen isotopes currently on a sell opportunity, but it's the only one over an entire 1 year chart. Nitrogen isotopes coming down from a sell opportunity. Again, one starts early at the year here above 900 and here another one, but that's it. You have one buy opportunity in this entire year here, which was in December. So it's always very difficult to, I think, time this market. Liquid ozone, you had a sell opportunity a year ago. Right now you probably have a buy opportunity, but if people look at this chart, it feels like a huge gamble, a huge mistake to pick this up. So there is this psychology of the market in there as well. But again, notice there's going to be one buy opportunity, possibly now, not saying it's now, but possibly now, and there was one sell opportunity on this 1 year chart. Hydrogen isotopes, again, one sell opportunity. Are we in a buy opportunity? Probably if I look at this chart, but who knows? Helium isotopes here, one buy opportunity, two sell opportunities, okay. And then heavy water, very prolonged buy opportunity and one sell opportunity again. I think that this is a very interesting market, but as I always said, if you want to actively do this, you need the patience, you need the discipline, you need to put in the time and the research in order to actually do these trades, which is, in my opinion, very, very difficult. If I do it, it's more gambling. Right now, I would take a small gamble on hydrogen isotopes and a small gamble on liquid ozone for a couple 100 million. If it works out, great, I make a few 100 million. If it doesn't work out, well, my losses are very small and I can easily carry those. So that's going to be it for this EVE talk, guys. I think it should be a very interesting week next week with the plex changes. I'm looking forward to that. Maybe we'll make a special video on that one as well. For now, thank you very much for watching and I'll see you all next time.